Good evening, everyone. Anthony Tharp, 6:11 p.m., April 11th, 2023. As I've promised, just doing a follow-up and trying to communicate with as many people as I can about what's happening around us in Jamaica and the rest of the world, what effects it's having on us. And I'm pretty much detailing my own experience, not somebody else's. My experience is things that I've observed, seen, witnessed. So it's not about guessing, it's not just about selecting a topic that's in the news cycle for the day to speak about, though at times I'll brush on them because it affects and has a direct effect on all of us. So I wanted to do a follow-up because approximately a week and a half ago, 2 weeks, I informed everyone that's listening that there was a judgment in the appeals court, and the appeals court pretty much upheld a ruling made by Justice Tai of the Supreme Court, and that ruling pretty much overturned the existing law, the Real Estate Dealers and Developers Act. It pretty much rewrote the act, and effective of the ruling of Justice Tai in 2017, every developer, according to her interpretation of the law, every developer should have had a real estate dealer's license, and typically that was not the case. I've read the law since, and in fact the old law as it was written, I don't know if she misinterpreted it, but the appeals court did the same thing. But as I've suggested to the audience, persons listening and paying attention, it's not by accident. These guys did it deliberately because it was designed to throw a monkey wrench in our struggles against the corruption, because we're so vocal about it. And we're vocal because the corruption is affecting us directly, and our loss is also Jamaica's loss, because I encouraged a lot of people to invest in Jamaica. I personally invested millions and millions of dollars invested. We're sitting on hundreds of acres of property, mostly in South and Western Jamaica and up in the hills, because we were my goal is not just to invest in coastal property, beach property, and the tourism market. I think there's a bigger, greater market that needs to be addressed and nobody's paying attention to. But typically in any vibrant economy or market, people chase what's popular and not what's futuristic. I tend to look at what's going to come and help to influence what's coming, because the fads, the short-term outlook are short-term, and they're just that. It's going to end up where it's going to cost the economy and the country when those short-term economic activity starts to collapse and there's no backing or no backup plan. So my developments tend to focus on a comprehensive look at not only our target market in terms of the properties we're developing, but we're looking at the future market. What does this mean for the present or present buyers or investors or potential owners of our property or tenants? What's in them for now? What's going to happen in transit to a distant future? And so we develop our properties, or the designs we have in mind focus on those issues, because typically one of the issues I've had with my experience as a person on the planet is that when I've looked at historical events and economies and how they rise and fall, and they fall because people focus on the instant, what's happening now, and no long-term planning. And I think the US is probably pretty much a successful economy and strong, because if you recognize how the US operates, it operates on a footing going forward. They look at the future. A US senator, I don't remember who her name was again, once said, we can tell the future. We can predict the future. And the reason she said that was simply they can predict the future because the future is planned. And a strategy is worked out as to how we're getting there and why we're getting there. Nothing in contemporary Western society or developed countries are by accident. Wars are not by accident. Everything is planned. The use of fossil fuels, continued use of it, it's not by accident. Even though we have alternate sources of energy, and we've known about them for centuries. Tesla, and you could look up the inventor Tesla. He worked heavily in the electric industry, along with Edison. They were competitors, but Tesla found a way to steal electricity out of thin air. And a lot of people were skeptical that it will never become commercially viable. And the reason I think they said that was because if you can pull electricity out of the air, raw energy that's around you, then it means everybody, once they know how to do it, will generate their own energy source, which means they couldn't commercialize it. So big industry, big corporate bodies would not be able to exploit people as they're doing now, or with current methods of supplying energy. And don't take, again, I've always said, don't take my word for it. Do the investigation. Look at, I think his name is Nikola Tesla. He's the inspiration behind Tesla, the car manufacturer now. And read about Tesla. He came up with some innovative energy sources, but his goal was to supply the planet with energy for free. And that's why he failed as a business person, because the persons who wanted to exploit and continue to exploit humanity for their own gain, obviously, all they wanted to do, they were looking at the profitability. And Edison was successful because they commercialized Edison, putting his electricity in buildings in New York and all over, because they see where they could build people and make money off people for electricity. So Tesla failed because of that, not because his discoveries and his innovation and his visionary plans were wrong, because we're just finding out about a number of things being public now, that there's energy, free energy in the air around us. And I think it's the easiest way to get you to recognize that the current discoveries that's now ongoing is that if you know, if you've ever been in a cold country or winter in a country where the temperature changes significantly enough between summer and winter, even here in Florida where I am, during the winter, of course it gets cool sometimes. But what happens is there is an experience that you call static electricity. If you go outside and you have on your winter coat and you happen to just brush up against something metallic, there's a whole bunch of sparks. And that's electricity, that's energy, raw, free energy. And it's dangerous energy as well. We get lightning, there's a lightning, I don't remember what they call the kind of lightning, but it's lightning without thunder or rain, and it's just and they capture that's electricity, the raw energy, the same strength as energy from the sun. So, as I said, static electricity, look it up and you'll understand where I'm coming from. And I'm saying this to, again, say to you that nothing is new under the sun. Everything that we need is here on planet Earth. It's within our psyche, and it's endowed or embedded in our genetics. That big brain you have, where they tell you you're only using a third of your brain or a tenth of the brain, and the rest of it is wasted material, is nonsense. Every part of the body has a function, and your own research will show you that makes no sense. You have a brain, there's a function for the rest of it that they claim you're not using. And maybe you're using it, but it's not a dominant activity. because it's not obvious, but it's functioning. It's doing stuff back there that we don't compute yet or we don't understand yet, but it's functioning. So here was Tesla coming up with the idea that energy is in the air and should be able to tap into it. And yet we hear decades after he died, and we still haven't been able to harness it because there is no real major effort to commercialize it. And even the pyramids in Egypt and those areas that have pyramids, most of them are built in a similar way. And it is said that when you measure the energy around the pyramids, they're actually generating low levels of energy. And there's a vibration going on there. And we still don't understand it because certainly pyramids weren't just built as tombs, as a lot of people are saying or suggesting when they don't understand something. So pyramids weren't just built as tombs. If you look at the Great Pyramids, you see, look at pyramids in South America, Central America, all over Asia. Why were they building pyramids all across the planet? For what reason? Certainly not to put a body in there. Or you might find some with a body, but certainly you're not going to build that kind of structure just to put a person in. And in fact, in Egypt, for example, most of the pharaohs weren't buried in pyramids. They were buried in the Valley of the Kings, in tombs underground. So the pyramids obviously had other purposes other than just being a burial chamber for one person. So going back to the ruling made by Justice Tai and the appeals court, I still haven't gotten the documentation that I was looking for to really deal with this matter. And the documentation I'm talking about is I sent the information and to the various government agencies that's relevant or this ruling is relevant to, and I haven't gotten any response from them. So I'm just giving you updates to let you know I sent it to NHT, National Housing Trust. I sent it to the Real Estate Board, who administers or regulates the real estate market and the industry in terms of developers and dealers. And I've sent it to several financial institutions. And the reason I've sent it also to professional organizations, not all of them yet. I'm going to be sending it to the Teachers Association. I think I sent it to them. I'm pretty sure I did. I didn't send it to the Nurses Association yet. And the police, not them yet. Or civil servants, that organization. And if you know of any other organizations that are missing, just put them in the commentary section and their contact information. And if you are in touch with a person if you could give me their contact information, or better yet, give them my contact information, send them to the channel and tell them to give me an email or give me a message how we could get together, because I want to do a Zoom conference where I put all these people that this ruling affects in one room and start a conversation, see what we're going to be doing about this, and possibly that's the first move in structuring strategy and an organization that will not only tackle these kinds of rulings coming out of the court, but the corruption that's happening in the court in real time, the corruption that's happening in government in real time, corruption that's happening in the security forces in real time. My focus is on the economic side because everything else falls within the scope of the economy. All those other organizations, from police to security to even government, it's the economics that makes a difference. It's the economics that's going to dictate who or what leads us and along which path and what we accept. So my goal is to focus on the economic activity of our people and how we can work together to make sure most people, if not all people, can be financially stable and have a good future. Because I believe if everybody has a good future, our lives will be better. The world will be a better place. There will be no need for us um, to exploit each other because we've transitioned to a higher plane. Because our level of thinking is not just about what we're going to eat today, what fancy clothes we're going to put on to go impress somebody down the road, and all of that. The important thing, I think, for all humans and humanity in general is where are we going as a species? Where are we going as a people? And I can boldly say that we've been contemplating those things for thousands of years, and we've been transitioning from gatherers, hunter-gatherers, to sophisticated societies living in sophisticated cities and towns with all kind of discoveries and inventions we still haven't been able to rediscover. Because if you look at history, and I keep saying look at history, and I'm using the term history to mean the story about our lives, the factual events that unfolded about our lives. And our lives is not just based on who you're looking at now. Our lives, our body is made up of billions and billions of past experiences, of our family member or genetic makeup. As I said, their experience, all of that is passed down to us and is recorded in this big old brain, and most people say is not functionally doing anything of value. No, our brain is probably the biggest supercomputer in the universe, and we tap into other areas of other people's universe, sometimes telepathically. I don't know if you've come to the realization that if one person said they discovered something in the Americas, then when you hear it again, somebody in Europe was working on the same idea. It's the Wright brothers, and when they were flying, there were people in Europe building planes and flying too. There were people working on electricity in Europe and all over the place before Edison and Tesla in the Americas. But we all seem to develop whatever tools we need in amongst ourselves when we need it. And it can't be coincidence. It can't be coincidence how our bodies work in relation to the seasons, the temperature, how storms, hurricanes, the ocean currents, the cycles, and in relation to the fishes, the sea, the birds, us. Nothing is by coincidence. Everything is by design. And that's one of the reasons I don't support the 100% analogy that evolution is how we got here, the Big Bang Theory. Big Bang thing happened and created us. So we're too organized. Our bodies function in unison with every cell in the body for a reason. That can't be by accident. One part of your body didn't get up today and say, oh, drop the tail because we don't need it anymore. No, we were built and constructed this way. And the being that did it, most of us refer to him as God. Genesis, God said God's built in our own image. So that's telling us a story as well. And whether we like it or not, there is sense behind biblical history if you check things out. They probably didn't get everything right in terms of documenting what happened, but maybe they did. Maybe we just lost it. With that said, I haven't gotten the information to as many people as I wanted to regarding the ruling of the courts. And why is this ruling so significant? Because I said my focus is on economics. My focus is on, seeing what I can do in my ancestors' footprints. They built pyramids. we have to outperform them if we are to go on into the future. And outperform them, I'm saying loosely because we really don't know what level of achievement they got to during their time. We're talking about thousands of years, and a lot of things could change over thousands of years. And we lost a lot of information, a lot of technology, which is evident because there are things that's showing up in Aztec construction and Peruvian construction and Egyptian construction and other parts of the world where, again, going back to mega structures, that they can't figure out how these things were done. And I'll point to Egypt again. Every Jamaican, every person of African ancestry, every black person, in fact, everybody on the planet should pay keen attention to history and to Egypt, because that is probably the closest we can come to have even the slightest grasp of where our people were and where they're coming from in terms of achievements. They destroyed libraries when Europeans went there. They burnt the libraries in Alexandria and destroyed a lot of manuscripts about science, medicine, the arts, you name it, possibly the atmosphere, astronomy. A lot of it was destroyed deliberately. The same thing in Timbuktu. They had to take manuscripts and hide where they wouldn't be destroyed. They saved some, but not all. And some of them are coming to light to date. What do they have in these manuscripts? Some of the languages we still haven't learned to decipher 100%. They're finding stuff in South America where the so-called Aztecs and Incas, who couldn't read and write or didn't have any written language according to Europeans, they're finding that was a lie. In fact, in the Vatican, they have books that came out of South America that got there and they kept them. So the whole idea that the world was a bunch of ignorant people living in the bush before Columbus came or Europeans came to the West or ended up in Africa is false. It's a false narrative that we have to deal with. And the false narrative is what I want to focus on in terms of what we need to do to bring ourselves out of this tragic movement of a nation that's happening now. Because in terms of relevant information, people aren't getting it. In terms of information that's beneficial to not only them but to move the entire nation so that we live in harmony and peace and the highest quality of life, the highest standard of life is achievable. We're not getting it. What we have is a bunch of folks who are struggling to meet their basic necessities, just to the basic means of keeping shelter over their heads. I'm not talking about the small percentage that have homes that they own 100%, that they have built homes or they have a lot of security in terms of finances stashed. Those are small numbers of people, and those people aren't going to threaten the nation unless they continue to exploit, and these are persons who are exploiting the poor, the struggling, and eventually it boils over. That's what happened in Russia. The Tsars were exploiting the ordinary people, and they got to the point where they got rid of the Tsars. The same thing in Europe. A lot of kingdoms fell, the queendoms, kingdoms. They exploited the poor, the working, took them for granted, and eventually they revolted against them and threw them over. Violent means, but that's what happens if we don't stop exploiting people. So it's important that we get this message out to the Jamaican people about the rulings of the Supreme Court, the ruling of the Appeals Court. And it's not only in the matter of the Real Estate Dealers Act. It's about the many atrocious rulings that I pointed out in documentation weeks ago, where judges just go in and make decisions that makes no sense. common sense. When I sat in front of the appeals court on this matter with the the Real Estate Dealers Act thing and the ruling, I remember saying to the panel came up and I said, judges need to use their common sense. And one of the judges there was like, she almost flew back on her chair as if, well, they're exempt from simple statements that make sense. If you have somebody in places that makes decision about a nation, they have to use their common sense. How are they going to come up to solutions to problems if they don't start from the simple and work their way through the complex? And that's probably what's happening. We have people going there, sitting on the benches and going there and pretend they're so sophisticated they overthink an issue. Because if a matter is in front of you and the law is there and the law is written and tradition is there and convention is there backing up the law, why are you going to overthink it and change the status quo when it's not necessary? Especially when you're wrong. So again, we need to get the message out, and I'm saying to everybody here that it's kind of frustrating from the perspective that here's a matter that affects so many people. Hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans have property that they bought from developers that were, according to the ruling, were operating illegally. And it therefore means that the agreements that came out of that are unenforceable. That puts a lot of money in these people's pockets, but those of us who have been hearing the message, they're either not putting it out there or they're not sharing it, and therefore the people who can benefit from it aren't doing it. On the other hand, people out there hear it and they're too scared to act on it, even though it's to their benefit. And that's probably why the poor working people of most nations always lag behind. They get left behind when there are wars because they see things coming and they don't make any preparations for it. And the people who know what's coming and make preparations are the ones that get saved. And so, I am going to be focusing again on still reaching out this week. I'm going to be updating you on these organizations that I'm going to be sharing the information with, because my job is twofold. We have multiple strategies working to pull things together in Jamaica in terms of our business model, the development that we have on the table. We still intend, with God's help, to stay around and get those developments done because they are significant. And the other thing is to clean up the dirtiness that's going on in Jamaica in terms of corruption, because no care how many buildings come in and investors come in, if the nation is going to fall apart and we have revolution and revolt and people start running down the place and burning down the place, then it makes no sense for us to invest the time and energy. So it means investing in strategy that prevents those things from happening. Hence the reason that I'm speaking a lot of the times about issues that's happening and say we have solutions, we need solutions. We can't just be talking about the issues, see the events coming, see the disaster coming, see the hurricanes coming, and we're not doing anything to stop it or to prevent it or to repair the damages. Talking about it and just sitting and waiting is just as crazy as a lunatic walking down the street naked in a fire. That's where we're headed if we're not coming up with solutions. So I typically don't just talk about the corruption that's in government. We know there's corruption there. As I said yesterday, it's been here and it's going to be here for a long time, but it's for us, the ordinary persons, the persons who are truly educated, to reach concessions on how we are going to deal with these issues. We need to come up with strategy, and we can't just sit at home, watch the news, watch TV and all the tragedy and hope it passes. It's not going to. Sooner or later it's going to catch up to you or to somebody you love or care about. And as I said, we're talking about Jamaica now, because Jamaica is a small island, population of 3 million, a really small country. And yet we are at the top of the list as one of the most violent countries in the world. Yeah, Jamaica is top 10 in the Caribbean. It's a top. in the Caribbean, the murder capital of the world. It's the top in the top tier of the most corrupt country in the world. And we know it's corrupt. Nobody can deny that. We look at our leaders doing their thing on a regular basis and just walking all over us with the corruption. And the problem is we sit there and we take it. So at what point are we going to take action? And I really appreciate people coming and reading and listening and hopefully reasoning out the things I'm saying, if not everything, some of it, because your contribution is appreciated and is as valuable as anybody else. And if you share that with people you know other than myself, that's fine. But we need to work together to make things happen. I heard a video where a celebrity was saying we have to stop saying, I don't know if she was addressing just me, because there are a lot of people out there now really fed up with the mess that's going on in Jamaica and speaking out. So I think her message was for a whole bunch of us. And she was saying that we have to stop telling people to stand up and get busy and make a change. And the impression I got was write off those people because they're not going to do it. Yeah, history and society has always been like that. The vast majority of people never sit and work together to get nothing done until we have a revolution, and then it affects them and everybody runs through the streets, burning down places and burning down their own countries, their own societies, their own communities, and destroying it and then having to rebuild. And I guess maybe that's why we've lost so much of our experience over thousands of years. Things that we should know today that we're still just discovering or rediscovering because they were here before. Because the vast majority of people just sit and take the pressure, and when they can't take it anymore, like a volcano, they vent. And sometimes when they vent, they blow off the top of that volcano and create so much mess and damage that it wipes out an entire people. Mount Vesuvius. I'm pretty sure persons heard when that volcano erupted the kind of damage and danger it did. And there throughout history, a lot of countries are no longer here because they were wiped off the map because of a dormant volcano that sat there for thousands of years, and then one morning it just blew its lid. We can't afford that to happen to our societies. We have to be a part of a proactive movement that makes a difference. I'm still reaching out to everyone that's listening that it's not enough for us to just sit and talk and talk and talk without action. Here we have a country, and reaching especially to Jamaicans, your country, our country, it's in the worst state it has ever been. Crime, we can't ignore it. Every newspaper you pick up, every time you hear the news, it's about crime. Now we're hearing a lot of robberies, major robberies, not some stick-up kid going in and robbing a store. We're talking about major organized crime. High-power rifles, where are they coming from? We're talking about people being killed, taken out on a regular basis as if it's nothing. And how do you encourage persons to leave from where they are in the world, which is relatively safe compared to Jamaica, and get there and be comfortable about coming there and investing their time and energy? Because when life becomes part of a risk in terms of business, most people are going to avoid that risk. And Jamaica is in that state. So we need to come up with those solutions. And I said it here, and I'm not just saying that. The reason I'm saying we need to come up is that I'm looking for other people who have a similar outlook, similar goal, who want to see the country better off and their lives eventually, because all the evil that's going on affects us, especially if we have an interest in Jamaica. Most Jamaicans still have relatives back in Jamaica. Not care how few or how small. You certainly didn't take all your relatives when you got here. or where we're living in the rest of the world. You have family there. You had friends. But even if you don't, that's your country. So we need to put together a plan of action that fixes these things. And one of the first things we must do is find a way to cleanse the systems that we have operating in Jamaica. The infrastructure, human infrastructure, government, our agencies, we need to clean them up. And clean them up starting with the primary agencies that can keep the corruption fertile and keep corruption intact so that it's with us for centuries in the future. If we want to do that, as I've always said, we have to clean the courts, clean government, and we have to stop patronizing these people, stop giving them support, turn our backs on them, and just let them know we're not going to play party politics anymore when it comes to our lives and our well-being. I want to thank you. So again, please share, please subscribe, and we can make a difference. I'll be putting out a lot of information hopefully in the future that's both geared at building your economy personally, building the Jamaican economy as a result of that, providing you with protective mechanism against inflation and global economic fallout, providing you with opportunities in real estate developments that we'll be putting out. Hopefully, before the year is out. I was hoping that we would have gotten going by June, because a lot of the things that the court's holding up, I anticipated would have gotten rid of those things by now. It's now April, 2 months away, not impossible. But so my goal is to really start putting out our developments and products and all of that out there, and so that people can take advantage of them. And as I've said to you in the past, I have structured my developments and my economic strategy that you are protected, you're relatively protected when it comes to other investments out there. We have some proprietary strategy and contracts and agreements that are quite legal, because we tested them elsewhere, we had them looked over and reviewed, and they offer you the greatest protection in terms of owning investment properties. And once you connect with us or with me and my team and our developments around the island, then you'll be able to tap into developments in the Caribbean and wherever we decide to do it, because we're looking at the entire planet to see where we can invest. It's never smart to put all your eggs in one basket. And I think we're more sophisticated now, and we have people who are looking globally to see that if an economy crashes in the Caribbean, you should be able to survive because you have resources working for you elsewhere. As long as we have the corruption going on, though, we won't be able to unfold a lot of those opportunities to the Jamaican people. So I'm reaching deep and asking you to, subscribe and share this video. Share this video and subscribe and make comments. Go in the comment sections, make recommendations, make comments, because the idea is we have to work together to make a difference. And I see a lot of young people out there, they're screaming bloody hell. They're tired and they haven't gone through the timeline that we have gone through, and they shouldn't have to, because we should fix it. But those of you who are young and you're ambitious and you want to live in a world that's better than what you came into, then certainly don't lose that energy, because you're here for a lot of things other than working and paying bills. You're here to help maintain society, empower society, and improve it. You can make major contributions. Don't think because a lot of us are from the islands that our contributions are negligible and of little value to the rest of the planet. All right, so thank you very much. Have a good afternoon. Well, it's evening now. Enjoy your evening. As hug yourself, look in the mirror, hug your family, and hold them close, and make plans that they are going to be protected in the near future, your future. That's what we're here for. So thank you. I'll give you an update on what's happening with the judgment from the appeals court, the Real Estate Dealers Act, because as I say, it's one of the most significant court decision that's been made in the Jamaica courts from the court started, or from we got independence, believe it or not. Probably one of the most significant rulings that's been made. A lot of people don't understand the gamut of it and the dimensions and the multifaceted nature of the ruling, but it is. And it addresses a number of issues, and it points out a number of areas that we need to correct to ensure that judges don't have this kind of power, because it's people like that that destroy nations and then take off before the real problem starts. So have a good one. Looking forward to talking again. Bye.